She appeared in the moonlight like a ghost, slipping through the shadows of the forest every midnight, and the Vampire King's starving son stopped crying only when her heartbeat drew near. For 63 nights, Lucien had hunted for the woman whose scent lingered on his child's skin, the mysterious savior whose milk kept his heir alive. And when he finally saw her face, when he realized exactly who she was, the most powerful creature in 5 kingdoms fell completely, utterly still. Celeste pressed her back against the cold stone wall in the village square, clutching her shawl tight around her chest. The ache was always worst at dawn. Her body hadn't understood that her daughter was gone, that the tiny grave on the hillside meant no more midnight feedings, no more small fingers curling around hers. The milk still came. The grief still came. And the women of Ashford still whispered when she passed. Cursed, they called her. A baby dead within 3 days of birth. A husband who'd abandoned her a week later, unable to bear the weight of her sorrow. She'd become invisible in her own village, a ghost among the living. But for the past 2 months, Celeste had a secret. Every night, when the church bell struck midnight, she walked into the thornwood forest where decent people feared to tread. And every night, she fed a child that was not hers, could never be hers, should terrify her. But he didn't terrify her. He was just hungry. Just alone. Just desperate for the very thing her body wouldn't stop producing. The first time she'd found him, wrapped in torn black silk beneath a hollowed oak, his cries had been so weak she'd almost missed them. His skin had been cold, too cold, and his eyes when they fluttered open were an impossible shade of amber that seemed to glow in the darkness. She'd known immediately what he was. Vampire. She should have run. Should have alerted the village elders. Should have left him to whatever fate had placed him there. Instead, she'd lifted her shirt. 63 nights later, the baby she called Thomas in her heart, though she knew he must have another name, was thriving. His cheeks had filled out. His grip had grown strong. And every night when she held him, singing the lullabies she'd prepared for her own daughter, Celeste felt almost human again. She didn't know she was being hunted. 300 miles north, in a castle that looked like it had been carved from midnight itself, Lucien Draven stood on his balcony and watched another search party return empty-handed. His fingers gripped the stone balustrade so hard it cracked beneath his palms. 64 days since his son had been taken. 64 days since the Covenant vampires had stormed his home, slaughtered his wife Elena in front of him, and vanished with his 3-month-old heir while Lucien had been forced to watch, pinned down by magic he couldn't break fast enough. He'd killed them all afterward. Every single member of the Covenant, down to the last bloodline. He'd made it slow. Made it legendary. Made it so brutal that his name was now whispered with fresh terror even among immortals. But his son, Nikolai, was still missing. His brother, Vincent, appeared in the doorway, hesitant. Even family knew to approach carefully these days. Lucien, I think we've found something. Lucien turned slowly. He perfected the art of contained violence over 9 centuries. His voice was soft, almost pleasant. A bad sign for anyone who knew him. If this is another dead end, Vincent, I'm going to start questioning whether you're actually trying. Vincent had lived 800 years. He didn't scare easily. But their family motto was simple, blood above all. And Lucien's son was the future of their bloodline. It's not a dead end. The tracking spell finally caught something. Nikolai's life signature. He's alive, brother. And he's been in the same location for weeks now. The Thornwood Forest, Southern Territory, near a human settlement called Ashford. Lucien moved so fast Vincent barely registered it. One moment he was across the balcony, the next he had his brother pinned against the wall, eyes black with hunger and rage and desperate hope. You're certain? Vincent nodded, unafraid. He understood. If someone had taken his child, he'd have burned the world twice over by now. I'm certain. But Lucien, there's something strange. Nikolai's vital signs, they're strong. Stronger than they should be for an infant who's been away from vampire blood for 2 months. He's being fed. Regularly. Someone's keeping him alive. Lucien released his brother, his mind already racing through possibilities, through strategies, through the 17 different ways he'd torture whoever had taken his son before he finally granted them death. His voice dropped to a whisper that would haunt Vincent for decades. Then we find out who. And if they've harmed one hair on my boy's head, I'll make sure their suffering echoes through generations yet unborn. I'll curse their bloodline. I'll erase their name from history. He's being cared for, Lucien. Whoever has him is keeping him healthy. Lucien's smile was sharp enough to cut. Then they'll die quickly. How generous of me. Prepare the guard. We leave within the hour. But he went alone in the end, as he often did for matters requiring a delicate touch. By delicate, he meant he didn't want witnesses to the absolute destruction he was about to unleash. It took him less than an hour to reach Ashford's borders. The tracking spell pulled him deep into Thornwood, to an ancient oak that hummed with recent life. And there, faint but unmistakable, was Nikolai's scent. Layered beneath it, intertwined with it, was something else. Something warm. Human. Female. And milk. Human milk. Lucien froze as understanding crashed through him like a physical blow. The scent was fresh. She'd been here less than an hour ago. Which meant she'd return. So the Vampire King, the terror of 5 kingdoms, the monster whose very name made immortals flinch, settled into the shadows to wait for the human woman who'd been feeding his son. He'd know the truth before dawn. And then he'd decide whether to thank her or end her. Possibly both. Now before we go any further, I need to know something that's been on my mind. Where in the world are you watching this from? Are you tucked in bed in Toronto? Listening while cooking in Lagos? On a night shift in Manila? Comment below and let me know what corner of the world brought you to the story tonight. I genuinely love knowing that these tales reach you wherever you are. And listen, if you've made it this far, you're clearly invested in finding out what happens when Lucien comes face to face with Celeste. Don't break my heart by leaving without subscribing. I spent hours crafting this story, building these characters, making sure every emotion hits just right. It takes you 1 second to hit that button, but it means everything to me. Subscribe now and join the fastest growing vampire love stories community on YouTube. We've got so many more tales of forbidden love, desperate protection, and shocking revelations planned, and trust me, you're going to want to be here for every single one. You're special to this community. Don't miss what's coming next. Celeste walked through Thornwood just as she had for 63 nights before, her feet knowing the path even in complete darkness. The forest didn't frighten her anymore. Death didn't frighten her. She'd already lost everything that mattered. Except for him. Except for the small life that waited for her beneath the oak. She heard his whimper before she saw him, and her body responded immediately, milk letting down, heart rate increasing with that strange maternal instinct that didn't care about species or logic. Oh sweetheart, I'm here. I'm here now. She knelt beside the hollowed oak, reaching for the bundle of blankets she'd brought 3 weeks ago to keep him warm. Her hands found his small body, and she lifted him with practiced ease, settling against the tree trunk as she prepared to feed him. His crying stopped the moment he recognized her heartbeat. Those amber eyes opened, glowing softly in the moonlight, and Celeste felt the same piercing tenderness she'd felt every single night. There's my brave boy. Are you hungry? She just positioned him to nurse when a voice cut through the darkness like a blade through silk. That's an interesting question. I'd very much like to know how you've been answering it. Celeste's blood turned to ice. She clutched the baby tighter, spinning toward the voice, and found herself staring at a man who couldn't possibly be a man. He stepped from the shadows like darkness given form. Tall, powerfully built, dressed in black that seemed to absorb the moonlight rather than reflect it. His face was beautiful in that terrible way supernatural creatures often were, all sharp angles and ancient eyes that held centuries of violence and charm in equal measure. But it was his expression that stopped her heart. He was staring at the baby in her arms with such naked, desperate longing that Celeste knew exactly who he was before he spoke again. His voice was softer now, barely controlled, shaking with an emotion she couldn't name. "That's my son. That's Nikolai." The baby made a small sound of distress at the separation from feeding, and Lucien's eyes snapped to Celeste's face with such intensity she couldn't breathe. "You've been nursing him." A human woman has been keeping the heir to the Draven bloodline alive with her own body. It wasn't a question. Celeste found her voice somewhere beneath the terror. "I found him starving. Dying. What was I supposed to do?" Lucien moved closer, and every instinct screamed at her to run, but she couldn't leave the baby. She shifted Nikolai slightly, and something flickered across the Vampire King's face. "You're protecting him. From me. You think I would harm my own child? I don't know what you would do. I don't know you." Lucien laughed, and it was the saddest sound Celeste had ever heard. A sound like breaking glass wrapped in silk. "No. You don't. But you knew what he was, didn't you? You knew he was vampire. You knew that feeding him, caring for him, could bring creatures like me down on your fragile human neck. And you did it anyway. For 64 nights, you did it anyway." 63, Celeste whispered. "Tonight is 63. Lucien went completely still. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that made the air itself seem heavier. "You've been counting. Every single night, you've walked into a forest that kills humans regularly, to feed a monster's child, and you've been counting each one. He's not a monster. He's a baby. He was alone and starving and someone had left him to die, and I had milk. I had so much milk and nowhere for it to go, and he just needed." Her voice broke. She hadn't said the words aloud before. Hadn't admitted to anyone, not even herself, why she'd really done it. Lucien crouched down slowly, bringing himself to eye level. This close, she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes, could feel the unnatural cold radiating from his skin. "You lost a child. Recently." It wasn't a question. Celeste's arms tightened around Nikolai. 3 days old. She lived 3 days. "I'm sorry." Lucien's voice carried genuine grief. "I lost my wife the night Nikolai was taken. I understand the weight of that particular darkness." They stared at each other across 3 feet of forest floor and an impossible divide of species and power and pain. Then Nikolai began to cry again, a hungry wail that made Celeste's body ache and made Lucien's entire demeanor shift into something fierce and protective. "He needs to eat." Lucien's voice was strained. "Please. I've heard him cry for 64 days in my mind, in my nightmares. If you can stop it, if only for a moment, please." Celeste hesitated only a second before adjusting her shawl and guiding Nikolai to nurse. The baby latched immediately, and the silence that followed was profound. Lucien made a sound that might have been a sob or a prayer or both. "Thank you." His voice was wrecked. "Thank you for keeping him alive. Thank you for every night, every feeding, every moment you chose his life over your own safety." He watched them for a long moment, mother and child in everything but blood, and something fundamental shifted in the Vampire King's ancient heart. "What's your name?" "Celeste. Celeste Thorn." Lucien's smile was slow, dangerous, and for the first time, genuinely warm. "Well, Celeste Thorne, it appears I'm in your debt. And I always pay my debts. The question is, what exactly does one give the human woman who saved the thing he values most in all the world?" Celeste walked back to her cottage as dawn approached, her mind spinning with the impossibility of the last hour. The vampire king had let her go. More than that, he'd thanked her. And the way he'd looked at his son, the raw desperation and relief and love in that ancient face, had shaken something loose in her chest. But by morning, doubt crept in with the sunlight. She'd been feeding a vampire's child. The vampire king's child. Every horror story she'd ever heard about the Draven family came rushing back. The wars they'd won. The enemies who'd simply vanished. The rumor that Lucien Draven had once killed an entire bloodline because one member had insulted his sister 3 generations prior. What had she done? What had she invited into her life? At the castle, Lucien held his son for the first time in 64 days and tried to understand the feeling tearing through his chest. Nikolai was healthy. Thriving, even. Because of her. Because a human woman with every reason to hate vampires, who'd lost her own child to the cruelties of fate, had chosen mercy over bitterness. His brother Vincent appeared in the doorway of the nursery. "You found him." Vincent's relief was palpable. "Is he perfect?" "He's perfect." Lucien's voice was rough. "No thanks to me. You were spelled, brother. There was nothing. I'm the vampire king, Vincent. I've ended kingdoms for lesser offenses than what was done to my family. And I couldn't save my own son. A human woman did what I could not." Vincent studied his brother carefully. "So what now? You've recovered your heir. The bloodline is secure. This should be a moment of celebration." Lucien looked down at Nikolai, now sleeping peacefully in his arms, and saw Celeste's face. The way she'd held his son. The unconscious tenderness. The fierce protection even against Lucien himself. "Now," Lucien said slowly, "I figure out how to repay an unpayable debt. And how to convince a woman who has every reason to fear me that she's the safest person in 5 kingdoms. You're going to see her again." Lucien's smile was pure mischief, the first real humor he'd shown in months. "Oh, I'm going to do much more than that, brother. Much more." But 3 days passed, and Celeste didn't return to the oak. Lucien waited each night, Nikolai in his arms, and she never came. On the 4th night, his patience, never his strong suit, ran out entirely. If the woman wouldn't come to him, he'd simply have to go to her. Celeste was drawing water from the well when reality caught up with her. One moment she was alone in her small yard. The next, the vampire king was standing 3 feet away, looking utterly out of place against her humble cottage, holding his son with surprising competence. "You've been avoiding the forest." His tone was conversational, but his eyes were sharp. "I'm trying to decide if I should be offended." Celeste nearly dropped the bucket. "You can't be here. If anyone sees..." "Sees what? A man visiting a woman?" "Celeste, I've existed for 9 centuries. I know how to be discreet. Though I admit, discretion isn't usually my style. I prefer the direct approach." "What do you want?" Lucien's expression softened as he looked at Nikolai. "He's been fussy. Won't settle. I've tried everything, every trick I learned with my other children centuries ago, but nothing works. And then I realized what he's missing. Who he's missing." Understanding dawned with horror. "You can't expect me to. I'm not his. He's not. He knows your heartbeat, Celeste. For 2 months, you were his entire world. You don't just get to disappear because it's complicated now. I saved his life. That's done. You have him back. I kept him alive, and now he's yours, and I can go back to... To what? Lucien stepped closer. To being invisible in a village that shuns you? To grieving alone? To pretending those 63 nights meant nothing? They didn't mean nothing. Celeste's voice broke. They meant everything. That's the problem. He's not mine. He was never mine. And I won't let myself pretend otherwise. Nikolai chose that moment to begin crying, a sound that made Celeste's milk let down immediately and made Lucien's jaw tighten with frustration. Please. Just once more. He needs you. It was the please that did it. The most powerful vampire in existence, asking instead of demanding. Celeste reached for the baby, and the moment Nikolai was in her arms, his crying ceased. She settled on the bench outside her cottage, and Lucien sat beside her, watching with an intensity that made her skin prickle. You're staring. I'm observing. There's a difference. Lucien tilted his head. You're very good with him. Natural. You would have been an excellent mother. Would have been. Past tense. Don't. I didn't mean. I know what you meant. Celeste adjusted Nikolai gently. But she's gone. And he's not her. And when you leave tonight, when you take him back to your castle and your world, I'll still be here. Alone. That's just how it is. Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. What if you weren't? What? What if you weren't alone? What if you came with us? Celeste stared at him like he'd gone mad. To your castle? As what, exactly? The human milk provider? A convenient food source? Lucien's eyes flashed dangerously. I have never in 900 years fed from anyone who didn't offer willingly, and I'm not about to start. I'm suggesting, albeit poorly apparently, that Nikolai needs you. And perhaps, you need him too. You don't know what I need. Don't I? Lucien leaned closer. You've been half alive since your daughter died. Don't bother denying it. I can hear it in your heartbeat, smell it on your skin. That particular scent of grief. But for 63 nights, you had a purpose. You had someone who needed you. And now you're trying to go back to existing in the margins, and we both know it's killing you. The truth of it stung like alcohol in a wound. Why do you care? I'm nothing to you. Human. Temporary. Irrelevant in the scope of your immortal life. Lucien's smile was sharp and surprisingly gentle at once. You saved my son when you could have left him to die. You gave him life from your own body. You're family now, Celeste. And I take care of family. I'm insufferable about it, actually. Ask anyone. Family is everything, and whether you like it or not, you've become part of mine. Against her better judgment, Celeste agreed to visit the castle. Just once. Just to see where Nikolai would grow up. The Draven estate was terrifying and beautiful in equal measure, all dark stone and soaring architecture that seemed designed to intimidate. But the nursery Lucien led her to was surprisingly warm, filled with soft fabrics and painted with surprising care. I did it myself. Lucien sounded almost embarrassed. Years ago, when Elena told me she was expecting, I wanted him to have something made with his father's hands, not just commanded by his father's voice. Celeste ran her fingers over a painted moon on the wall. It's beautiful. You must miss her terribly. Your wife. Every day. Lucien settled into a chair, Nikolai still content in Celeste's arms. We had 300 years together. Met during a war, naturally. She was a warrior, fiercer than half my army. Took me 50 years to convince her to marry me. I was very annoying about it. Despite everything, Celeste smiled. Why doesn't that surprise me? I'm persistent. It's a character flaw. Or a strength. Depends who you ask. His expression grew serious. She'd have liked you. Elena always said the measure of a person wasn't their power but their choices when no one was watching. You chose kindness in the dark. That would have mattered to her. I'm sorry she's gone. I'm sorry Nikolai won't remember her. He'll know her. I'll make sure of it. Every story, every fierce, wonderful thing about her. Just like I'm sure you keep your daughter's memory alive. Celeste's throat tightened. I don't talk about her much. People in the village, they don't want to hear about dead babies. Makes them uncomfortable. Then they're fools. Lucien's voice carried absolute conviction. Say her name. Right now. Let her be real in this room. Celeste looked at him, this ancient vampire king who somehow understood exactly what she needed. Lily. Her name was Lily. Lily. Lucien repeated it with reverence. That's a beautiful name. Tell me about her. And Celeste did. For the first time since her daughter's death, she talked about the 3 days they'd had. The way Lily had gripped her finger. The small sounds she'd made. The dreams Celeste had buried with her. Lucien listened without interruption, and when she finally stopped, tears streaming down her face, he simply said, she was loved. That's not nothing. That's everything. Vincent appeared in the doorway, hesitated at the scene before him. Brother, we have a problem. The Covenant, there are survivors we didn't know about. They're regrouping. And they're asking questions about Nikolai. Lucien was on his feet instantly, every inch the predator. How many? At least a dozen. They've been in hiding, but our sources say they're planning something. Revenge for what you did to their bloodline. Good. Lucien's smile was terrifying. I was afraid I'd gotten them all. It's nice to have loose ends to tie up. Where are they? That's the problem. They're here. In Ashford. And Lucien, they've been watching the human village. Celeste's blood ran cold. Why would they? You. Lucien's voice was deadly quiet. They're looking for leverage against me. And somehow they've learned about you. The castle went into immediate lockdown. Celeste found herself in a guest room that was larger than her entire cottage, with guards outside her door and Nikolai in a cradle beside her bed. Lucien appeared an hour later without knocking. You can't leave. Not until I've handled this. Handled. You mean killed. I mean eliminated the threat to my family. Yes. Lucien didn't apologize for what he was. I told you, I'm very serious about protecting what's mine. I'm not yours to protect. Aren't you? He moved closer. They're targeting you because of your connection to Nikolai. To me. That makes you my responsibility. I didn't ask for this. No. You just asked to save a dying child. Unfortunately, that child happens to be the heir to a very complicated, very dangerous legacy. His expression softened slightly. I know you're frightened. I know this isn't the life you imagined. But I will keep you safe, Celeste. That's not a request or a negotiation. It's simply what's going to happen. Why? She met his eyes directly. Why do you care this much about one human woman? Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his eyes. Do you know what it's like to be utterly helpless? I've toppled kingdoms. I've survived 9 centuries of wars and betrayals and enemies who tried everything to destroy me. And none of it mattered when they took my son. I was powerless. Broken. Failing at the one thing that actually mattered. And then I found you. This human woman who had every reason to walk away, who'd already been devastated by loss, and you chose to love my son anyway. You gave him life. You gave him comfort. You gave him every single thing I couldn't provide. Do you understand what that means to me? You're not just the woman who saved Nikolai. You're the person who proved that goodness still exists in a world I was ready to burn down. Celeste's breath caught. That's a lot of weight to put on 63 nights. Is it? Lucien's smile was crooked, almost boyish. Because from where I'm sitting, 63 nights of selfless love is worth more than 9 centuries of selfish survival. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow I'm going to do terrible things to terrible people, and I'd prefer you not see that side of me just yet. I'm trying to make a good impression. Despite everything, Celeste laughed. It was the first real laugh since Lily died. Too late. I already know you're a monster. Lucien's grin was pure wickedness. Yes, but I'm a monster with excellent taste and impeccable manners. There's a difference. After he left, Celeste lay in the dark, listening to Nikolai's soft breathing, and realized with absolute terror that she was beginning to care for the Vampire King almost as much as she cared for his son. Now let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. If you were Celeste, would you stay in the castle where danger followed but protection was guaranteed, or run back to your old life where you were safe but completely alone? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I'm genuinely curious what you'd choose. The attack came at dawn. Celeste woke to sounds of violence echoing through the castle, screams and crashes that sent her scrambling for Nikolai. She just lifted him from the cradle when her door exploded inward. The vampire who entered was female, ancient, and radiating hatred. So you're the human pet he's taken in. How sweet. How absolutely pathetic. Celeste backed toward the window, clutching Nikolai. Get out. The vampire laughed. I don't think so. See, Lucien Draven killed my entire family. My children. My grandchildren. Slaughtered them like animals. And now I'm going to return the favor. She lunged forward, and Celeste did the only thing she could think of. She ran. The castle was chaos. Vampires fighting in hallways, blood on marble floors, the sound of Lucien's voice roaring commands somewhere in the distance. Celeste clutched Nikolai and ran blindly, finally bursting out into the courtyard, where she came face to face with 3 more Covenant vampires. Well, well. Look what we found. The nursemaid and the precious heir. One of them, a male with silver hair, stepped forward. Give us the child, human. We'll make your death quick. No. The vampire tilted his head. No. You're human. Fragile. Temporary. You really think you can stop us? Celeste's voice was steady despite her terror. I kept him alive for 63 nights when his own father couldn't find him. You think I'm going to hand him over now? Come and take him. See what happens. The vampires laughed and advanced. And then Lucien was there. He appeared between Celeste and the Covenant vampires like a storm-given form, and the temperature dropped 20 degrees. His voice was soft. Deadly. You touched what's mine. That was your last mistake. What happened next was brutal and efficient and absolutely terrifying. Lucien moved like violence choreographed, and within seconds, all 3 vampires were dead, truly dead, in ways that wouldn't allow resurrection. He turned to Celeste, blood on his hands and face, eyes completely black, every inch the monster from nightmares. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Celeste couldn't speak. Couldn't reconcile this creature with the man who'd painted moons in his son's nursery. Lucien saw her expression and something in him crumbled. This is what I am, Celeste. This is what I've always been. A killer. A monster. You were right to fear me. He reached for Nikolai, and Celeste instinctively pulled back. The hurt that flashed across Lucien's face was absolutely devastating. I see. His voice was hollow. You've finally seen the truth. I'm not the grateful father or the charming visitor. I'm the thing that rips out throats and ends bloodlines. And you want nothing to do with me. That's not. It is. And you're right to feel that way. He stepped back. I'll have Vincent arrange for your protection. You'll be safe, I promise you that. But you don't have to stay here. You don't have to be near me. Before she could respond, another explosion rocked the courtyard. The female vampire from Celeste's room emerged, wounded but alive. You killed my children, Draven. Now I kill yours. She moved toward Celeste with impossible speed, and Lucien threw himself between them, taking a wooden stake meant for Nikolai directly through his shoulder. He went down hard, and the female vampire raised the stake again, aiming for his heart. Celeste didn't think. She grabbed a piece of broken stone from the courtyard and swung it with every ounce of strength she possessed, connecting with the vampire's skull. It shouldn't have worked. A human shouldn't be able to hurt a vampire. But desperation and love made people capable of impossible things. The vampire stumbled, and Lucien, injured and bleeding, finished what Celeste started. When it was over, when the courtyard was silent except for their ragged breathing, Lucien looked up at Celeste from the ground. You saved me. Why? Because. Celeste's voice shook. Because you're Nikolai's father. Because you painted moons. Because you listened when I said my daughter's name. Because I don't care what you are, Lucien. I care who you choose to be. They didn't speak for 3 days. Lucien recovered in his chambers, healing from wounds that would have killed a younger vampire. Celeste stayed in her room with Nikolai, trying to process everything that had happened. Vincent visited on the 3rd day. He's being an idiot. Just so you know. My brother, he's convinced he's corrupted you somehow. That you saved him out of obligation, not genuine feeling. I told him he's wrong, but Lucien's always been dramatic. It's exhausting. Is he all right? The wound. Healed. Physically, anyway. Vincent studied her carefully. Can I ask you something? Do you care about him? Truly? Celeste looked down at Nikolai, sleeping peacefully in her arms. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But yes. I care about him. More than I should. Then tell him. Because right now, he's planning to send you away. Set you up with wealth and protection in a far territory where you'll never have to see him again. He thinks it's noble. I think it's stupid. He's trying to protect me. He's trying to protect himself from caring too much. There's a difference. Vincent moved toward the door. For what it's worth, I haven't seen my brother laugh in 64 years. Not until you. Whatever you've done, whatever this is between you, it matters. Don't let him throw it away because he's afraid. After Vincent left, Celeste made her decision. She found Lucien on the balcony where this had all begun, staring out at the kingdom he'd ruled for centuries. "You're leaving." His voice was flat. Vincent arranged everything. "You'll have a house, income, guards." "Stop talking." Lucien turned, surprised. Celeste walked forward until they were inches apart. "I'm going to say this once, so listen carefully. I'm not leaving. I'm not running. I'm not afraid of what you are, Lucien. I've seen you at your worst, covered in blood and fury, and I'm still here. You don't know what you're saying. I'm dangerous. Being near me, it puts a target on your back. You think I don't know about targets? I buried my daughter. I've been called cursed by my own village. I've been alone and broken and invisible for months. And then I found your son, and for the first time since Lily died, I had a reason to keep breathing. And then I found you. This impossible, infuriating, ancient vampire who paints nurseries and makes terrible jokes and protects his family with the same ferocity that he destroys his enemies. You think that scares me? Lucien, that might be the sanest thing in my entire life right now. Lucien stared at her like she'd performed a miracle. Celeste, I'm 900 years old. I've lived entire lifetimes. And you're human. Fragile. I'll watch you age and fade and die, and it will destroy me. Then it destroys you. Celeste reached up and touched his face, feeling the coldness of his skin, the sharpness of his jaw. But right now, in this moment, I'm here. We're here. And I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. The question is, are you brave enough to choose me back? Lucien's control shattered. He pulled her against him, burying his face in her hair, his voice wrecked with emotion. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve any of this. Probably not. Celeste smiled against his chest. But you're stuck with me anyway. I'm very persistent. I learned from the best. Lucien laughed, actually laughed, and kissed her like she was the answer to prayers he'd stopped saying centuries ago. When they finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. I'm going to be insufferable about this. Overprotective. Possessive. I'll probably start a war if anyone looks at you wrong. I'd expect nothing less. And I'll love you. Completely. Ferociously. For whatever time we have. Celeste kissed him again. Then stopped wasting it. 6 months later, Celeste stood in the same courtyard where she nearly died, but everything was different now. She wore a dress the color of midnight, her hand in Lucien's as they watched Nikolai take his first stumbling steps toward Vincent, who was making ridiculous faces to encourage his nephew. Your brother is going to teach him terrible habits. Absolutely. Lucien grinned. It's a family tradition. I taught Vincent terrible habits 600 years ago. Circle of life. Celeste had moved into the castle permanently, taking a role that had no title but infinite importance. She was Nikolai's mother in every way that mattered, and she was Lucien's partner, his conscience, his connection to the humanity he'd nearly lost. The village of Ashford had been shocked when Celeste returned for a visit wearing fine clothes and traveling with vampire guards. The whispers changed from cursed to enchanted, and while Celeste didn't care much what they thought anymore, it was satisfying to see their faces. She'd visited Lily's grave and told her daughter everything. About Nikolai, about Lucien, about the impossible life she'd found in the aftermath of loss. I'll always love you, she'd whispered. But I'm allowed to live too. I think you'd want that. The wind had rustled through the trees, and Celeste chose to believe it was approval. Now, watching Lucien sweep Nikolai up into his arms, both of them laughing, Celeste felt something she hadn't experienced in over a year. Complete peace. You're smiling. Lucien appeared beside her, Nikolai balanced on his hip. That's my favorite look on you. I'm happy. Is that allowed? It's mandatory. New house rule. He kissed her softly. Right up there with no weapons at the dinner table, and Vincent isn't allowed to teach Nikolai swear words. From across the courtyard, Vincent shouted, I make no promises. Celeste laughed and took Nikolai, who immediately snuggled into her neck with perfect trust. The baby who'd been starving and abandoned now thrived, surrounded by love from every direction. Thank you. Lucien's voice was serious now. For every night in that forest. For every choice you made that led us here. For saving him. For saving me. We saved each other. Celeste met his eyes. That's how this works. That night, after Nikolai was asleep in his moon-painted nursery, Lucien found Celeste in the library, reading by firelight. I have something for you. He handed her a small wooden box, hand-carved with intricate roses. Inside was a pendant, a delicate silver lily. So she's always with you. Lucien's voice was gentle. Both of them. Lily and Nikolai. Past and future. Loss and hope. Celeste's eyes filled with tears as Lucien fastened it around her neck. I love you. She said it clearly, without hesitation. I love you exactly as you are. Lucien pulled her close, this human woman who'd changed everything, who'd proven that even ancient vampires could find redemption in unexpected places. I love you. And I will spend every day of your human life proving it. And when your time comes, when age finally takes you from me, I'll carry your memory the way I carry Elena's. With honor. With love. With absolute devotion. That's morbid. I'm a vampire. We're excellent at morbid. He grinned. But we're also excellent at devotion. And you, Celeste Thorne, have all of mine. Outside, the moon rose over the Draven estate, painting everything in silver light. And in a nursery filled with painted stars, a child slept peacefully, loved beyond measure by a father who'd found him and a mother who'd chosen him. 63 nights in a forest had changed 3 lives forever. And in the end, love had won. Just as it always should. So that's how a vampire king and a grieving human woman found each other in the darkest of circumstances and built something beautiful from broken pieces. That's how 63 nights of selfless love changed the fate of an entire kingdom. Now I need you to do something for me. If you made it all the way to the end of this story, if you felt even a fraction of the emotion I poured into every single word, don't you dare leave without subscribing. I mean it. I spent hours crafting this tale, building Lucien and Celeste's world, making sure Nikolai's story hit your heart just right. You just invested 40 minutes into their journey. Give me 10 seconds for yours. Hit that subscribe button right now and join our family. Because that's what we are here, a community that believes in epic love stories, in second chances, and the idea that even monsters can find redemption through the right person. We've got so many more stories coming. Forbidden romances that'll wreck you. Revenge tales that'll satisfy you. Plot twists you'll never see coming. And you're going to miss all of it if you don't subscribe right now. Also, tell me in the comments, what was your favorite moment? Was it when Celeste first confronted Lucien? When she defended Nikolai in the courtyard? When Lucien gave her the lily pendant? I read every single comment, and your thoughts genuinely make my day. And one more thing, where in the world did this story find you tonight? Comment below with your location. Are you listening in London? Driving in Dubai? Relaxing in Rio? I love knowing this community spans the entire globe. Don't ghost me now. You've been here for 40 minutes. Subscribe. Comment. Be part of this family. You're special to us, and I promise you won't regret it. Until the next story, remember that love always wins. Even when it's unexpected. Even when it's impossible. Especially then.